Now, while President Trump fixes our southern border, our neighbors to the north are really worried that the U.S. will annex Canada. Listen to what Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in a hot mic moment.
Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing. In my conversation with him.
All right. Well, it seems like this has been bothering Trudeau for quite a while now, because here's what he said last month.
I started to suggest, well, maybe there could be a trade for Vermont or California for certain parts. He immediately decided that it was not that funny anymore, and we moved on to a different conversation. So this isn't out of the blue that he's doing this.
Well, certainly not out of the blue, because, in fact, Trump did double down on his efforts to annex Canada. Let's take a listen.
Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it is. I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state, because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada, and I'm not going to let that happen. It's too much. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially in subsidy, to Canada? Now, if they're a 51st state, I don't mind doing it.
And this just took place today. That was Bret Baier's sit down with President Trump. That took place at 3 o'clock Eastern, ahead of the big game today. Guy, we know that Trump's a believer in manifest destiny. He is quite the businessman. What is your take on, the fact that he is now doubling down on his maybe attempts to annex Canada?
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, it's not a real thing. We're not going to annex a sovereign country. Canada is a proud country. It's an ally of ours. Now, if this is a very aggressive negotiating tool and threat sort of hanging over ongoing negotiations over the tariffs or what have you, maybe I probably wouldn't do it that way myself. But Trump has, of course, his own way of doing things. I have another theory here, by the way. I'm not sure that was an accidental hot mic moment from Justin Trudeau. I think Trudeau knows exactly what's happening, and he wants to pump the threat of an annexation of Canada because he believes that can help his party. They have been floundering in the polls. They've been down for a year and a half to the Conservatives by 20 points. But the idea that maybe scary Trump from the U.S. would try to overthrow Canadian sovereignty could be this political lifeline to the political left in Canada. And I think that's why he's going to hype this. There's a political advantage potentially there for the Liberals up in Canada to use that threat in the elections upcoming.
Interesting. A little bit of strategy there, perhaps. Okay, well, it only took 3 weeks in office, but the world is already bending to President Trump's will. Venezuela, for example, is going to start accepting migrant deportation flights as soon as next week. And then you have Colombia, where flights have already begun after their president caved to Trump's demands. Then there's El Salvador, where Trump has also convinced that country to take back their violent criminals from the U.S., and even Mexico, coming around because of Trump's tariff threats. They've deployed 10,000 National Guard troops to the border. Panama's president has agreed to speak with Trump to discuss the possibility of U.S. ships crossing the Panama Canal for free. And forget Super Bowl, everybody. Just forget about it. The president has just signed a declaration, a proclamation declaring today, everyone listen to this, Gulf of America Day. Okay.
We're flying right over it right now, so we thought this would be appropriate. Even bigger than the Super Bowl. This is a big thing. And almost everybody now has assented to that.
Attention on board. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please direct your attention out the right side of the aircraft. Air Force One is currently in international waters for the first time in history, flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America. Please enjoy the flight, and we are now about to head westbound to Super Bowl 59.
Wow, he did that well.
I mean, what can you say about Trump? He just knows which buttons to push and exactly when to push them, Molly.
I mean, clearly all orchestrated. He wanted to make a big deal in the moment and created a moment. And there it was. And he did it, flying over the Gulf of America right out the plane window. And he's been having a lot of success with all sorts of various negotiating tools that he's employed. And here we are, every time he suggests something, we say, is he serious or is this negotiating? And then it turns out that whatever it was or however it worked, it works. And the same thing has happened with Canada. They're working on beefing up their border security and working with us to create a better focus along the northern border. Then you see El Salvador, where they're talking about taking in prisoners, not necessarily American citizens. Apparently there's a big pushback on bringing any actual American citizens down, but people that are in our prisons that perhaps are not American citizens would be the first potentially to go to El Salvador and be housed there. And other countries as well agreeing to various deals. So far, you mentioned Manifest Destiny. This throwing things out there seems to be working. And whether it's a negotiation tactic or a very serious tactic, I guess we'll see how far various efforts that he has underway go.
Joe, I just saw you shaking your head over there.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, listen, I was telling myself there's no way I could give a fast answer to this, but I need to hurry up. If you take a 30,000-foot view back and you say, okay, Panama, Greenland, Gulf of America, what's happening with calling Canada the 51st state, what President Trump is doing is he's very smartly attacking this corrosive idea that's infected the minds of so many Americans over the last maybe 20 years, that America is somehow inherently bad and you can't be proud of it. And you can't believe in things like Manifest Destiny. You can't believe in things like American exceptionalism or even American growth and expansion. And those are things are so destructive to our country. Listen, we have committed sins along our way, but most of those sins are paid for in blood. We had slavery, and then we had a civil war where good men died to get rid of it. We've taken over territories. Good men and women have died in wars. So whatever you think of what happened 200 years ago, the country we have today, good people gave their lives for it. Be proud of it. Be proud to call it the Gulf of America. Be proud at the idea that we're such an amazing country that there's even a conversation about a neighboring country. You'd be 151st of what we have going on. And that's not to belittle Canada. They are good, proud people. But what we've done from one coast to the other on this continent to create a sovereign country is something that is so remarkable that any teacher or professor or parent who would tell a young mind to be ashamed of it is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, well, I think it's clear everything that Trump has done from the day that he took office until now, every single thing he's doing is an America First policy. And he's showing every other country in the world that they will not come before us. And finally, it's about time, because it seems like for a while we've been putting our country behind every other in terms of pretty much everything that we've seen transpire in the last 4 years.